afternoon. My name is Kara Cheslin, and on behalf of Students for a Just and Stable Future, I would like to thank you very much for being here today. Our group, Students for a Just and Stable Future, is a volunteer network of New England area students that is pushing for bold, meaningful solutions to ensure a just and stable future for our generations and generations to come. We believe that it is our responsibility as youth and global citizens to act on this looming crisis. As a generation of youth who have matured in a world of ecological crisis, it astounds and terrifies us that our political and corporate leaders have neglected to act responsibly about this looming tragedy. We are tired of hoping that our leaders, who have largely refused to take any legitimate action on climate, will take matters into their own hands.
Hello, my name is Ethan Buckner. I'm speaking on behalf of my sister Heather Buckner, who is a member of the Students for Just and Stable Future. At the approach of the COP16 international climate negotiations, Students for a Just and Stable Future laid our demands on the table. This November, 170 students from all across New England united to fight climate change by preparing a declaration of our demands and actions to be addressed here in Cancun, and also preparing a declaration and also directly delivering to policymakers across the United States. During our weekend-long Student Conference of the Parties, modeled after the United Nations Conference of the Parties, members of the Students for Just and Stable Future wrote and ratified a declaration for clean energy. The declaration highlights our commitment to making universities leaders in clean energy, supporting and launching community efforts to reduce carbon use, and advocating policy solutions that will deter fossil fuel burning. In addition to our pledge, the declaration demands action from policymakers on all levels of the United States government to pass meaningful and comprehensive legislation entirely eliminating the use of fossil fuels in the next 20 years. Simultaneously, we are also insisting that global leaders agree to a legally binding treaty that will return our global atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration to less than 350 parts per million and end the burning of all fossil fuel by 2040. We are challenging our leaders, domestically and internationally, to take climate seriously and to pursue legitimate, science-based solutions, and in the meantime, we agree to do all in our power to advance our goals. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Angelia Padre, and I'm a sophomore representing College of the Atlantic in Bar Harbor, Maine. My fellow students and I are honored to be here to speak on behalf of our college as an example of a sustainable student initiative in New England. College of the Atlantic is a small school with an enrollment of around only 300 students. It became the first carbon-neutral college in the United States to become in 2007 and is one of the top 10 greenest colleges according to the Sierra Club. Its system of governance encourages student participation in the decision-making process within the school. Student leadership is the main promoter of our school's sustainability. We see COA as a model where students are taking initiative to increase sustainability throughout New England. Being sustainable promotes a healthier climate and a healthier future, counteracting the adverse effects of climate change. Now I'll pass the microphone to Graham Reeder.
Thank you. My name is Graham Reeder, and I'm a sophomore at COA as well. I would like to talk about some of the concrete actions and practices that students at COA engage with as examples of what is possible on college campuses in New England and beyond. These practices include composting food waste, tableware, as well as human waste, recycling, the use of renewable energies as wood pellets, hydropower and solar energy. Additionally, we grow some of the produce we consume in our dining hall at the school's farm and strive to serve as much local and organic food as possible. We believe that it is important for other colleges to turn to more sustainable practices because we cannot and we should not solely rely on our political leaders to take the first step. That first step should be taken by all educational institutions across New England because it is the youth who are the most motivated to create tangible change. If our governments and corporations are not stepping up to solve the issues of climate change, we must act now to secure a sustainable future for all. I will now turn the microphone to Moises.
Thanks, Graham. My name is Moises Flores Baka. I'm also a sophomore at College of the Atlantic. We believe that students should create connections to their political leaders in order to push forward legislation to enhance sustainability in New England and beyond. As an example of what students are capable of, I would like to mention that COA students were instrumental in lobbying for the main refundable beverage bottle legislation. This allows for people to get refunded for returning their plastic and glass bottles, thus encouraging recycling. Other more recent efforts include lobbying our senators, Olympia Snowe and Susan Collins, to vote for legislation that will reduce greenhouse gases, among others, by limiting development in the North Woods. Furthermore, Elsie Flemings, once a COA student who is now a legislator, created legislation as a student that requires economic impact studies of a region before big box stores move in. This has prevented some emissions of greenhouse gases by reducing the amount of trucked goods as opposed to locally grown goods. An initiative that I have been directly involved with, along with around 20 fellow students and 4 faculty members, is a research project sponsored by the National Science Foundation, which seeks to promote the increased use of wood as a source of energy for home heating in the Hancock County, where the school is located. We believe this is important to reduce the use of highly polluting fossil fuels, increase the county's energy independence, and can help increase job opportunities within the county. Wood is an abundant, underutilized resource in the county whose responsible exploitation can actually contribute to forest health. As a closing message from COA, I would like to say that youth in general, and students in particular, should not lose hope. We're capable of making a difference when we work in conjunction with our local governments. However, we don't have to wait to get this help. We can act now. The youth can and must. Thank you.
We are students. We are not full-time politicians or paid organizers. We choose to make sacrifices for our future because it is necessary and because independent leadership is severely lacking in our country. We are getting to work, and we are calling on the international community to stop wasting time and do the same. No matter what happens at COP16 this week, New England is fighting to abolish coal plants one by one, and we will be soon introducing legislation in Massachusetts that will make coal a dirty fuel of the past. We will continue to build our movement and be a voice for all of those suffering from the harsh impacts of fossil fuel burning. We must mobilize every effort if our generation is to live in a safe, prosperous, just, and stable future. Thank you all very much for joining us. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes.
You mentioned that College of the Atlantic is about 300 students, and you're calling for other educational institutions to also adopt a similar model. How scalable are the solutions that College of the Atlantic has adopted? Are larger universities, like public universities in the United States, able to take the same steps towards carbon neutrality that College of the Atlantic has?
I'd say definitely. In terms of our sort of practical solutions like composting, recycling, food management, these are all areas where our size is actually a disadvantage, and we're still doing it. Larger schools have so many more resources, monetary and human resources, and they're really able to show some leadership, especially in the New England area, in these areas.
Can I just add to that by saying some of the less common ways of being sustainable, such as getting produce from our school farm, organic produce, is actually quite beneficial for a larger school population to do, and I've seen schools with populations of 20 to 30,000 follow the same model, so I'd say that's quite replicable as well.
And also another question, how responsive are legislators to young people calling for action? I mean, a big problem in the U.S. is that there's a general impression that the youth don't vote, and so that their voice doesn't necessarily matter. Are we seeing New England elected officials responding to the youth votes, or are they?
That's a great question. I would just, in order to answer that, I would bring up the specific example of the work that Students for a Just and Stable Future has done in Massachusetts. There were a whole series of sleepouts that happened outside of the State House last year in Massachusetts, in Boston specifically. And through those sleepouts and through communicating their the strong message of Students for a Just and Stable Future to the state government, they, as I mentioned, were actually able to introduce the legislation in order to phase out coal-fired power plants in Massachusetts. So I would say there's definitely much work to be done and a lot that youth can do to represent our opinions and our demands to legislators, but I would say that there is a lot of room for an actual conversation amongst legislators and youth.
Yeah, and also speaking to the larger youth climate movement, in 2008, the Power Vote campaign, which Students for a Just and Stable Future were a part of, was able to mobilize over 400,000 young people to vote for clean energy. And the youth vote was demonstrated to be a significant factor in the victory of Barack Obama in the 2008 presidential election. I think that's just one of many examples of how youth mobilizing in large numbers and in smaller numbers on a more local scale can really make a powerful impact on our political arena. Another example is that youth in the It's Game Time Obama campaign demanded to meet with President Obama, members of the cabinet, and where 120 youth last year went to the first ever Youth Clean Energy Forum at the White House last December, I believe, which was held probably the first ever meeting with young people and 4 members of Obama's cabinet in the White House to talk about clean energy and sustainability and the youth movement. So yes, youth do have lots of agency and power and should and will continue to display that on a local, regional, and national and international level.
Thank you very much for joining us today.